Last January, I met a guy named Dave Gleason at Deke Dickerson's Guitar Festival in Anaheim, California. Dave and I struck up a friendship, and after a while, he sent me this 1966 Fender Telecaster pickup for a rewind. I've been giving him trouble and not really sounding right, so I'm going to see what's going on with this thing. I've hooked it up to the meter, and the reading's very erratic, so that gives me the indication that there's something wrong internally. Now, when I hook it up to an amplifier, I get a sound, but it's really weak. Especially when you compare it to a pickup of the proper output. Hear the difference there? Now before I go peeling off any string or coil wire off this bobbin, I'm first going to heat up these two little solder joints right here. Maybe they've gone cold over the years and just need to be reheated to work again. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's definitely worth it because it saves you a bunch of time with rewind stuff, and also keeps the pickup original. Well, heating up the solder lugs didn't do any good, so we're going to have to dig in and see what the problem is. Now, I'd like to point out that this pull piece is very, very rusty, and there's a good possibility that it had something to do with what caused this pickup to malfunction. And a lot of times when I peel the ground plate on these, I can see the tape holding the pull pieces in, and it might be all rusty. This looks pretty clean though, so it doesn't look like the rust went all the way through. So my first step is going to be to peel this string off and then examine the coil. Almost all Fender pickups were potted with lacquer or wax, but during this particular period, some snuck out of the factory without anything at all. And now looking at this string, it's soft and moving, and so are the coil wires. They're not stuck to the base plate, the bobbin there. So that tells me that this pickup has not been waxed at all. So I'm going to carefully remove the string. If you look at the bobbin real well, you can kind of see where it ends up. And so I'm going to hook it with this tool and just gently work it out. There we go. There's the end of it. And since it's not potted, this is just going to unwind off of here fairly easy. Okay, now that I have the string off, I'm going to just inspect the coil and look for any visual signs of damage that could have been the problem. So just kind of give it a good once over. And now that I'm looking at it, I see something a little strange. There's a little crease right in here. That looks like maybe a guitar pick or something slid between the protective string and possibly damaged the coil. So what I'm going to do is find the finish wrap of the pickup, which is this one here. I'm just going to pop this up with an X-Acto, cut it, and start unwinding it by hand to see if I can't wind through this weird little part I see. I'm just going to start kind of carefully pulling it off. Eventually I might come up on a break here. This is pretty time consuming. You can spend hours doing this. But while you're doing it, pay attention to the layers, because it's often a good education to see how this coil wire was wound onto the bobbin in layers. This one was obviously done very, very evenly. After unwinding a bunch of this coil by hand, I never did expose a problem. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut the wire off now. Using a sharp knife and X-Acto works great. Just carefully work in and just start bringing it down. Work from the bottom up to the middle and the top down to the middle so you don't go marking up your flatwork. Now notice I cut right around where that rusty pull piece is, so I can see if there's anything going on regarding it in the area that I've removed this wire. Now, I'm not seeing anything that indicates to me that the corrosion was the issue. The pull piece looks pretty clean under here. We'll look at it once I get all the wire off. I'm guessing that little divot that we saw on that coil broke it deep down inside the center of the coil. We would have had to unwind well over half the bobbin to get to that point. Yeah, these look pretty clean. If you look at them, there's not much rust or anything on them. It's going to be easy rewind. So at this stage, we're going to need to take the lead wires off and the copper-plated steel base plate and clean this bobbin up for rewinding. Now I've clamped the bobbin into a small parts vise just so hold it steady while I remove these other leads. I heat up the solder from the back side and just pop it right out like that. Now the ground lead is going to be a little longer because it had that little tail that went into the grounding plate there. Alright, there we go. Pull those out the bottom side. Grab my solder sucker. Might take a couple times to get them good and clean. Some really old solder in there. I come in with my X-Acto. I'm just going to cut away these little remainder start wraps of the lead wire. Okay, now that I have all the lead wires and the grounding plate off, I'm just going to clean it up a little bit before dipping it in lacquer to insulate it. The idea is to just remove any kind of sharp edges or any kind of area that might catch the wire. Go around the bases of the edges of the pole pieces a little bit. And then the final step we're going to do is dip this bobbin in lacquer to seal it off. It's only going to take a minute. I'm using a bent piece of fret wire as a handle. Now I'm going to take this to the spray room and let it dry overnight. This bobbin's been drying for a few days now, so I know the lacquer's good and cured. I'm going to take this X-Acto and scrape off any of the buildup around the lips of the edges of the pickup itself. This just kind of helps prevent any wire from snagging on anything and just gives it a good smooth look. Now with this pickup, man, I was really convinced that the problem was going to be related to rust on the pole pieces and corrosion of the enamel wire, but I was really surprised that it wasn't. It looks like just the coil got damaged, and that's why this pickup failed. We're ready to rewind this. Now in early 1964, Fender switched from formvar wire to plain enamel. And it's clear when we took the wire off that bobbin that it was plain enamel. You can tell by the color. So that's what we're going to rewind this with. I'm winding the string on just exactly how it came off the bobbin. Now I'm going to put the base plate on so I can solder the lead wires in. Check out the date, 7/28/1966. This guy just turned 47 years old. Pickup's ready to go. It's reading in the mid 5K range, perfect for an old Tele pickup. Dave, this will be on the brown truck tomorrow.